It's time to start the broadcast. Computer Compulsive is on the air, but we're an hour late because we said we would stream at 9, but it is 10:12. I just made that up. Welcome back to Computer. Welcome to Computer Compulsive. My name is Bill Bo Baggins, and I'll be your host. Actually, no, my name is Craig, and this is Computer Compulsive. Thank you for being patient. I said we're going to live stream at 9, and I had to put my son to bed, and that was just too optimistic. You need to, just like in the Seinfeld episode where his parents moved to Del Boca Vista, Jerry's dad says, "You don't understand. You have to have a buffer zone." So when you're quoting times to people, have a buffer zone. When you say, "I'm going to be live streaming at 9, make it 10:30 so you're 17 minutes early. How you doing, everybody? It has been a while since we've been on the air, and apologies for the delay. We had a massive Marcintosh. We published lots of content. I can't seem to talk tonight, but we're going to get through this. We're using Switcher on my iPad Air, and we have multiple camera angles to play with. We have the iPad selfie camera pointed at me. We've also got this lovely overhead camera view where we're going to take apart part of this 128. We're going to look at some of the parts that are in it, and I'm excited about that. And then we also have, from before, the WattsCam, what's on the screen. So we'll be taking a look at the WattsCam later on in the broadcast, but for now we're going to talk about what is a 128K Mac. And so a 128K Mac came out in 1984, and let's go back to the regular camera view here. Sorry about this. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing and making different layers and things like that. So 128K Mac, it was built in 1984. It was Apple's first commercial effort at, I'm just noticing there's some stuff on the card there. We'll take a look at that in a second. They originally made the Lisa, and it was really expensive, and it was prohibitively expensive, and then they decided to dumb down the Lisa and make something that was a bit more affordable. So the Macintosh came out in 1984, and the analog board actually says 1983 on it, which is cool. But we're going to take a look at this board. We've been, if you've been watching our broadcasts, you might notice that we've had several different 128Ks that we've come across. Some of them, I thought they were 128Ks, but when I open them up, they always seem to be 512s. So we have three 512s here. One of the 512s, well, it's actually a 128 that's been upgraded. So the one that we have here came from our collection we picked up in November. I'm going to be keeping this one because it's got a really cool RAM upgrade in it. And we're going to take the logic board out and show it to you. And then we're going to add some other goodies to this thing. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to take the logic board out of the 128. So I'm going to just pop over to the overhead camera for just a second. And we are going to gently remove the logic board from the 128. Now, before we remove the logic board, we have to remove two connectors. We got to remove the floppy connector, which is here. And we got to remove the main sort of power cable here. So we'll do this. There we go. All right. So this logic board, we may have looked at this before. I don't remember if we talked about it. But there's a pretty wild upgrade on this thing, and I'm looking forward to showing it to you. For those of you who have not seen it before, we have to be mindful of taking this out of here because the upgrade that's in it is a little bit on the crunchy side for space. And we don't want to scrape any of the things coming out of here if we can help it. I think we did this last time. We just kind of gently got that out. So, all right. Okay, so the board looks like, you'll notice this has something called a Sophisticated Circuits Incorporated. and it's called Maximilian. Now this isn't a super rare upgrade, but it is semi-rare, and the cool thing about this is when we got this, these top 2 rows of chips were not populated. And so what had happened was, let's go back to the other angle here for a second. What happened was is that we had the RAM board is a really powerful RAM upgrade, because this is a 128K logic board. You can tell by looking at the side here. You can even see, I don't know if you can see that, but it says, let's go to the overhead camera for just a second. If you look closely, you can see it says 1983 right there. So the logic board is a 128K logic board. Otherwise it would have a 128 or a 512 checkbox here, and it does not. So we know that this is an official 128K logic board, which is cool. So you can see it's got this huge monster daughter board with all these chips on it, and there's standoffs to hold it out of the way. And you'll notice there's some jumper cables or baud wires that are necessary to facilitate this RAM upgrade. So this thing was upgraded from 128 to 512, and that means someone desoldered all of these chips. And as we talked about before, if you look closely at these solder joints, you'll notice that you can tell that they've been dealt with before. They look different than all the other solder points. So someone manually removed all these chips, put in new chips to bump it from 128 to 512. And then, you know, this little rubber bumper here, it's cute. It's like one of the feet on the bottom of the bucket. And then you'll notice these 2 were also changed over. You can also see here, 1983 Apple computer. So this is the first original 128K logic board. Many of these logic boards were upgraded because 128 just really wasn't enough to do anything. So you'll see there's a couple baud wires here. There's one there. There's a whole bunch of others underneath here. So we booted this in a previous video, and we did show that when it booted, it was. Oh yeah, we'll talk about this little solder thing. I'll go back to the overhead camera for just a moment. This little solder joint here. That solder joint there, that's a little solder bridge. And what happens with that was I got a bunch of these chips, these 41256 RAM chips, and I got them all the same latency so that they're all, I think, 100 milliseconds. So I populated all 3 rows of this together, and the 3 rows with the 512 on the logic board adds up to 2 megabytes. And so we basically have, sorry, I'm just trying to change camera angles again. We basically have a 2 megabyte 128 upgraded with this RAM upgrade. So I know that this works, but the cool thing I want to do today with you folks is I want to talk about a couple other upgrades. So we're going to just gently put this down for a second, and we're going to pull out some stuff from the Tickle Trunk that I just got recently, which is super fun. First thing that I want to talk about is, I think you saw this in another video if you've been watching our series. I'll go to the overhead cam again here. So if you can see here, we've got the K-Koba kit here for what's called a ROMinator. So what you can do is you can put different ROMs into the logic board, and it will allow it to boot to the HD20 MFM hard drive. So that's cool. And the other thing these do is you can boot the computer straight to System 6 without having any floppy or any hard drive connected. So that is that's super cool. So we're going to play with this, but I also have another fun thing we're going to do. We also have, and we just got this recently from a fellow in Europe, I can't remember his name, but we got this really cool, it's called MacSnap SCSI Reloaded. So back in the day, there was a company called MacSnap, And MacSnap made these SCSI daughter cards. So you can take this, what you do is there's pins in the bottom, and the pins on the bottom plug into the existing ROM on the logic board. And then you take those ROMs out and you put them in here. What we're going to do today is we're going to take the ROMs from Kaykoba and we're going to put them into the MacSnap board. So we're going to do two things. We're going to put this MacSnap daughter card into this upgraded 128 with the 2 megs of RAM, and we're going to upgrade the ROMs in the process. We're going to take these Kaykoba ROMs, the high and low for System 6, and we're going to populate those into the MacSnap daughter card, and then we're going to install the MacSnap onto this logic board. And the other cool thing we're going to do is we have a connector cable for hooking up SCSI peripherals. And where did I put that? We'll have to find that later. But anyways, we're going to do this a little bit one at a time. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to remove the ROMs from the 128. We're going to take them out gently, and we're going to then put the new ROMs into the daughter card. Then we're going to take the daughter card and we're going to install it onto the logic board. And we're going to have a super hopped up 128K Mac, a 128K Mac that's going to be upgraded to 2 megabytes of RAM, and it's going to have a built-in ROM so you can boot the Mac without having any floppies or hard drive connected to it. And as a bonus, we get an extra connector on there where we can actually plug in a SCSI hard drive. So back in the day, 128s and 512s, you had these crazy upgrades that would bump up the RAM and allow you to put a SCSI device onto it, which was essentially a Mac Plus. So we're basically turning this 128K Mac, which has been upgraded to 512, we're upgrading it to 2 megabytes with the Maximilian daughter card, and we're going to give it SCSI. So it's like a Mac Plus that only does 2 megabytes of RAM instead of 4. The Mac Plus handles a full 4, but I believe there's a new solution too for that. But I just thought it'd be cool. This is like a brand new version of the MacSnap SCSI daughter card here, which is really fun. And it says here, let's give credit where credit is due. We're going to do, I'm going to zoom in on the overhead cam here and just give a tribute to some of the folks who came up with this. So I'll just read this to you and then I'll show it to you. So MacSnap SCSI Reloaded, copyright 2024, and there's thanks to Bull, B-O-L-L-E, Builder68, the 68K MLA, and this is based on the Dove MacSnap SCSI, and you can go to https://github.com/demik, DEMIK/oldworld. And there's a 53C80 SCSI controller chip on here, so have a look at that. I'll just put that there so you can see it. And there's actually a QR code you can scan, and that will take you to the GitHub page. So you can build these boards yourself, or you can buy them fully populated like I've done. So I'm really excited about this. We're now going to remove the ROMs from the 128 board that's been upgraded. So let's go ahead and get that going right now. I'm just going to slide this out of the way so we can take a look at the board. And I'll see if we can zoom into this a little bit more for you folks. Hope you're having a good day. It's been a while since we've streamed, so I'm excited about this. Let's take a closer look at what's going on here. All right, so the ROMs are here. There's a ROM low and a ROM high, and both of these have to come out so that we can put this daughter card in. So how this is going to work is you can see the pins here. These pins are all going to plug in to these two like so. Thankfully, the RAM expansion doesn't get in the way of this, so this is all going to fit, although it's going to be very tight. But when we're done, we will have full SCSI support and we'll have built-in Rominator support, I'm hoping. So let's begin by removing the 2 ROM chips here. So I'm just going to put this like this. We're going to take these 2 out right now. I just need to go and find something to do that. Give me one moment. These can be just gently pried up with a little screwdriver. You want to make sure you're not scratching anything or going too fast, otherwise you can bend the pins. You don't want to do that. So all right, the high ROM is out. That was pretty simple. I'm going to set that aside. We know that these ROMs are good because the machine did boot successfully beforehand. And now we will remove the low ROM very gently and carefully. There's also, you can get like proper chip pullers to do this, but flathead screwdriver works as long as you're not, breaking the ceramic on it. All right, so ROM low and ROM high have both been extracted, so that's exciting. Should probably keep track of which one is which, but we can do that later. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set the 128 board aside, and we are now going to install the low and high ROMs into the MaxSnap SCSI daughter card. And this is super exciting. I know that I could build the Rominator board, but I'm going to assume that the Rominator can handle these new ROMs here. Hopefully I don't blow something up, because if I do, I will have to call these people and say, hey, I did not do my homework and now things are broken, so please send me more of these things that you already sent me. Big fan of Bolle, B-O-L-L-E. He has made lots of amazing reverse engineered products, including help with this one. We also have, I might just grab this for a second and show you something that we're really happy about is this lovely, seeing as how we're talking about the great Bolle. He built this, he reverse engineered this Daystar socketed accelerator. So this is a Motorola 68030 at 50 megahertz. And we also have an FPU in here. And I had to send it to him because I don't know if I tried to change this. One of the pins was shorting out and I was getting SIMAC when I booted. But we'll be putting this back into one of our other SE30s. We've got several of them here, protecting the pins with anti-static foam. So I really like this. This is cool because not every SE30 is socketed, but Keith, my partner in Computer Compulsive, has populated one of the SE30 reloaded boards, and it has a socketed processor as well. So just wanted to shout out to Bolle for all your amazing work. Keep it up. You're amazing. Love everything you do, and super smart guy. So we'll put that away. But we'll show that in another video later. I have had that working in other SE30s previously. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is, we should actually protect these pins while we're inserting these ROMs so we don't bend any of them. And also, we have to be careful to watch the notch. We should just maybe copyright that phrase. So the notches need to match the notches on the socket. So the high ROM is going to go in here, but we need to make sure that we put the notch in the right configuration. And you'll see that the Rominator comes with its own sockets. We obviously already have sockets here. So the notch is on that end, and the notch is on this end. So we're going to put this in like so. Just want to make sure that we've got, oh, wait a second, we have a problem here. Yeah, good old Craig making assumptions about this and that and the other. You can't do what I think you can do, and that's because, guess what? The ROMs that I've got from K-Koba, there's more pins on them. So let's not try and do that. That would be very bad. We just learned something very important there. But, so what that means is we're not able to put the ROMs in here. And that means I need to double check which of these ROMs is the low and high again, because we're going to put these in for now. We'll at least get we'll at least get the SCSI function working. But let's take a look at the Rominator board for just a moment and have a look at that. So the Rominator board, when you're putting it together, the sockets for these ROMs are obviously bigger than the ones that are here. So I made a very gross assumption that the ROMs are the same physical size, and they are not. So my plans are a little derailed here. But I'm going to have to borrow my WattsCam camera for just a second because I need to look this up and make sure I know what I'm doing. I could look at another board, but I'll just double check on our friend the internet here. Sorry about this, folks. Making some lovely assumptions that that are not always quite accurate. So glad we did not try to slam down that ROM into the wrong slot. That's not going to work. We will just have to build that board and do that properly. I'm wondering though if we can fit I'll go back to the overhead cam for a second. I'm wondering if this board would fit on top of here and still fit into the case. Because basically you have to put this thing into here. And oh wow, yeah, that may or may not fit. And then, oh, see, where's the, yeah, because you've got, there's stuff in the way. You might have to, yeah, I'll have to do some more homework on this. This is not as straightforward as I thought it was going to be. So let me just look up which ROM goes where, and then I'll be right with you folks. Apologies for the confusion. Just talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. The peanut is neither a pea nor a nut. Discuss. That's from our friend Mike Myers from Coffee Talk. The number is 555-4444. That's 555-4444. We'll talk. No big whoop. All right, we're just looking this up here. Oh yeah, and as I'm looking, you'll notice this is a cool product that K-Koba came up with. It's called a 128K mimicking adapter for 512K. So you can install this in your 512K and you can flick the switch and it will dumb the machine down to what would be a 128. So that's kind of cool. For those of you that want to run a 128 for nostalgic reasons, that would be why. So I'm just going to look up what these what's going on here with these chips. Yeah, I was hoping to just throw everything in and kaboom, but I forgot that the Rominator requires some adaptation, and you got to do some soldering work. And yeah, anyway. When you get the Rominator properly installed, you can do some neat things like change the startup sound and things like that. So Well, I suppose I could just punch in the part number and see what happens here. 342-0341-B. Um, 342, where's 342? 342-0341. Oh, here we go. So these are Mac Plus ROMs. So the Mac Plus ROMs means we can at least boot from the HD20. But with the SCSI adaptation, we'll be able to do both. So 341B is the ROM low. So I just identified that. A is high. Let's double check. Mac Plus ROM high 85 341A. 341B 342. Wait a minute. 342A. 0342A. Well, that's weird. 342-0341B, Mac Plus ROM low 1985. So we're going to put this in here. If we get a sad Mac, we'll know that we did it wrong. Make sure that the pins are all lined up here. Okay, so that's done. So the problem with, these pins here, we'd have to modify these to work with the other Rominator thing, so we'll see how that goes. So 342-A, Mac Plus ROM high. Why is that 34? That's interesting. It says 342-0342. Sorry, I'm blocking the camera again. Nonetheless, I know that the 341B is the Mac Plus ROM low, so this one's got to be the high, I'm assuming. So we'll go ahead and put this in here. Watch the notch. Make sure that that is correct. Make sure everything's lined up. Okay, back to business here. We're going to put the WatsCam camera back together here. Thanks for your patience, folks. We're live streaming to YouTube and to Facebook, and we're doing a demonstration of upgrading our 128. I'm just going to add the camera back here. Okay, the WatsCam is back online. We're going to take a look at that in just a second. So we've got our MaxSnap SCSI populated with the ROMs that were in the logic board. We're going to set this Rominator business aside for now because it's a little more complicated than I had imagined, but that's okay. We might get Keith to help me with that. There's a small chip that needs soldering on there that's a little tricky for me to do. With his hot air station, he can do a much better job of that than I can. So put that away. So we've got the MaxSnap SCSI daughter card good to go. The next thing we want to do is we're going to insert this onto the logic board itself. So let's take a look here. We've got, we can zoom out just a little bit more here. There we go. So these are our the two things that are populated. We extracted the ROMs from these sockets and we've transplanted them into the MaxSnap SCSI daughter card. So let's just put this back this way. Now the tricky bit here is there's some wires in here. I want to make sure I'm not pinching any of these. One of these wires is bodged over to this chip over here. These wires are here to facilitate the addition of extra RAM, which apparently the 128 was designed to handle, but might have been nerfed a bit when they built it just to make people want to buy the newer thing. That's something Apple would never do. Anyways, I didn't say that. That was just your imagination. So this is going to fit very tightly beside this mothership RAM expansion, but we also want to make sure we're not bending any pins. We have to line up the low and the high pins and make sure that we are not going to bend any pins. So if you can see that there, we are taking our time and making sure that we're not going to break anything. So we'll just gently press down on that. Okay, that feels good. So now we have a 128K logic board that's been upgraded to 2 megabytes of RAM and now has a SCSI interface. So that's really cool. So I think what we'll do next is we will, in order to test the SCSI connector, we need to actually plug in a cable. And where did I put that? I've got it around here somewhere. Oh yeah, it's right here. All right, so cool thing here, check it out. We have a DB25 connector, and then we've got this little ribbon connector here. Not a standard ribbon connector, it's kind of weird looking. But this cable came with the whole kit, and this is based on the MaxSnap from like the 80s. This is just a reverse engineered version of the board. It's modernized, which is great because it's 2024. And you can see here, there's the NCR 53C80. This is a standard SCSI controller chip here. So very cool. This looks nice and shiny and new. I love it. So we've populated the high and the low ROMs. We've now put this back in. Like I said, my only question is with the clearance, because when you look at the board, the RAM expansion is kind of thick, but it doesn't look like it's any thicker with that connector on there. So it's, if we take a look there, you can see the ROMs are not sticking up that high. However, if we were to put the ROMinator adapter on that, then we might have a problem. So yeah, I don't know if that's possible. Kind of doubt it. Either that or you would have to cut some of the metal chassis away to put it in after the fact. But anyway, we've got this fully populated. This is one mothership 128 board here. So we're going to put this back into the chassis. We're going to fire it up, and we're also going to connect this ribbon cable, and we're going to test the SCSI drive. We're going to see if the SCSI drive wants to mount. And so let's just see what happens here, all right? We're going to put the logic board back into the 128. So we will just put this back over here like so. And we will maybe zoom out just a little bit here again. Okay, great. So we've got this really thick, dense board here now, and want to be careful putting this back in because we don't want to scrape any of the chips. This RAM expansion is very bulky. You can see there's I put 48 chips on there, all the same speed and latency, and it actually adds a little bit of weight, but also the thickness of the board makes it tricky to slide back into the actual chassis. So we're going to flip this around. We're not going to plug in any cables right away. We're just going to, and it's very nice, there's no, on the SE, SE30, there's a speaker connector. Well, on this, the analog board, the speaker is built into the analog board, so we don't have to worry about that, so that's nice. So let's go ahead and put this in. Whoa, it's crunchy. So you just want to be really careful here. Because getting this in is, you can actually see the metal. if you tried to just jam this in, you'd actually maybe damage some of these chips. So what I might do, I might just bend the side over a bit, because I just don't like the idea of scraping the heck out of everything. Might try to just get this in here a little bit. Yeah, just again, want to be very mindful of not scraping anything or damaging anything. So it's in, but we got to bend this just a bit more so that this ridge actually sits inside of here. So let's go ahead and maybe do that and see if we can gently sneak that in without pinching your fingers either. Ugh. Oh, jeepers. Yeah, this is crunch-tastic for real estate. It's oh no, it's out of both rails. Hang on. I want to scrape up the board too much here. Okay, it's in. Yikes. Okay, let's flip this back on its feet, and then we'll take a look at these connectors here, and then we'll pray that the machine boots up without any problems. So, good news is you can see, if we take a look at just the right light, you can see the MaxSnap. I'll zoom in here. And we will just pull this forward just a bit. So you can see the RAM upgrade there, and then you can also see, I'll just move this back so you can, there we go. So you can see the MaxSnap SCSI connector is available. It's open and it's not blocking anything. And we can also see the floppy connector in here. It's a little dark, but you can see it. And then we've got the main power connector. So we're just going to hook these three things up, and then we're going to try to boot this thing. And then we're also going to see if we can hook up a hard drive, a SCSI hard drive, for the first time. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom back out here. Let's see what you're doing. This is really fun. It's I've always wanted a 128, but because we already had this massively RAM upgraded 128 with the Maximilian thing, I thought, well, wouldn't it be neat if we just added SCSI interface to this thing too? So when I found, I think it was someone on Tinker Different was selling this reloaded thing, and I was like, oh, what's a reloaded thing? And now I know. So here is our 25-pin SCSI cable, and what some people do is they put it inside of the clock. I don't know what I'm going to do with this connector. I thought it might be fun to put an internal blue SCSI in here. So what some people do is they take the SCSI port and they put it where the clock battery goes. I don't know if I want to do that, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's just get this thing up and running again. So we've got our main connector in there. We're going to plug in this SCSI ribbon cable. And make sure that watch the notch. Like I said, I think I'm going to patent that. It's a neat phrase. All right, the MaxSnap SCSI interface is plugged in. You can see it there. And then we're just going to plug the floppy connector back in as well. So make sure I'm doing that right. Watch the notch again. Okay, great. So the MaxSnap SCSI board is installed. We've got our SCSI connector connected, and I think what a good thing to do now would be is to find a SCSI cable so that we can actually plug in. I've got, I don't know if we have a cable for this guy or not, but let's take a look here. I thought it would be neat if we tried to plug in this original 20SC is what this is, and this is an original, I think, Rodyme. I'll show you the, let's zoom out a bit here again. So we've actually got, we're going to go to the Watts cam in just a second. What's on the screen cam? This is, check it out, a 20SC. This is Apple's first, sorry about the focus there. This is Apple's first SCSI hard drive, 20SC. So we're going to plug this in and we're going to hook up a SCSI cable. I don't know if there's an OS on this, this 20SC or not, but let's go ahead and see what happens when we boot this. So a couple things we got to do. We got to hook up power, we got to hook up a keyboard and a mouse. So let's do that now. Just going to switch angles for a second. Okay, we've got our power cable here. Let's maybe do power last. We've got ourselves the lovely 512 keyboard here. So we'll hook that up. That plugs into the front. Get that out of the way. To make sure you don't push the logic board out of its socket, I've got a SCSI cable here in my handy dandy notebook. So we've got the DB25, and then we've got the Centronics connector. We're going to plug this into the back of the HD20, and we're going to see if this 128 wants to talk to a SCSI hard drive, which is super cool. So the SCSI hard drive is set to SCSI ID 5, I believe. Don't plug it into the floppy port. That would be very bad. Don't even know if that's possible. All right, so we've got the internal MaxSnap SCSI hooked up to this drive. So we're going to plug in a mouse, and then we're going to plug in power to the hard drive, and then I've got this little Mac Draw floppy. This boots. I hope this floppy drive is okay. I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. So we are going to plug in the mouse, and both of these guys need power, so I need to deal with that. Where is another power connector here? That's not power. That's power. I'm going to steal this from this monitor here. Okay, we're going to plug in the hard drive. And then I think it's time to go to the Watts cam. And, oh, we got to flip the Watts cam. It's upside down. Hang on a second. There we go. That's better. We'll just rotate this up a bit because it's a little higher with the hard drive. Maybe back that up just a tad so you can see the hard drive. about that. I think I would have planned that a little better. Here we go. Hard drives 3, 2, 1. Let's go to the WattsCam. So the WattsCam stands for what's on the screen. Here comes the hard drive in 3, 2, 1. This hard drive makes really cool noises. I love the high-pitched, you can hear it, like it makes some very neat noises. All right, and now we need power for the Mac itself. I like to power up the hard drive first just to be safe. The hard drive has System 7 on it. I don't know if it's going to want to boot, so we might have to... I can't remember if this hard drive has like an OS on it or not. But let's boot it up and see what happens. We did not get a chime. Oh, that's fun. Does not like that. Let's unhook the SCSI device and see what happens. Let's try it again. Well, either I've done something bad or something is slightly broken. Let's try putting the floppy in and see what happens, just for fun. Let's also try reseating this. Maybe these chips aren't in all the way or something. I don't know. Let's try that. Well, we're not having luck here, folks. Sorry. Well, I hope I'm not damaging anything. This, we're going to go back to the other view here. It's not working. What have I done wrong? We have a picture and we have screen, so let's maybe have another look and see if something's missing here. Dang. It's not the way I wanted this to go. Let's unplug the SCSI connector and maybe we should just re-inspect this for a second. Let me move this SCSI drive out of the way and we'll do a little investigating. This is a good exercise in accepting failure when you're trying to do something in front of a live audience. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for things not to work on the first time. So we just tried to install a SCSI daughter card onto this 128. And we did not have luck doing that. So the question is why? Why isn't this working? What's going on, man? Okay, well, let's take the logic board out and let's reinvestigate this and see. I'm curious if I put the ROMs back, if it will boot normally. That'd be my first thing. And I guess the other thing is, do we need to do a ROM upgrade for that to work? I don't know. Maybe we do. Maybe I rip out some of my Mac Plus ROMs and put them in and see if that makes a difference. But should work. The Mac Plus ROMs support native SCSI, so that was the whole point of SCSI was for the Plus to natively support it. So let's just pull this out for a second. Frustrating. All right, we're going to put this back on its face again. It'd be nice if you could test this out of the chassis and see if there was some kind of other problem. Yeah, I'm just afraid of scraping those chips there. It's just no good. Ugh. What are we doing wrong, folks? Did we miss some pins? Did we do something wrong? Or are we... Let's just pop this out for a second and let's go back to the overhead view for just a moment. Going back to the overhead view. We didn't bend any pins, so ROM high, ROM low, the notches match. Maybe it's not seated all the way, I don't know. Let's turn the lights down here for a second so you can see better. Oh, it's 11 o'clock. We're coming up to an hour. I'm tempted to put the ROMs back in just to see what happens. Or maybe I have them in backwards. Maybe I could switch them. I don't know. Where is... Give me a second here. I don't have a Mac Plus logic board handy. Let me just take a look at this board for a second here. Hang on. Let's take a look at this. I've got Mac Plus ROMs here. Maybe want to try switching them up. Look, it's another Mac Plus logic board. Woohoo! Yay! So, ROM high, ROM low. What are the part numbers for these? Let's zoom in again here and just see if we can have a better look at this. Okay, so the ROM low says 0342-B. Okay, 0342-B. (341-C). Oh, that's weird. So ROM low on the Mac Plus board says 0342-B. I think I've got these backwards. I don't know. 342B is the low. 341B is the low. 342A. 341C. You know what? I'm going to just, we're going to flip some ROMs around here and just see what happens, because I know that these are actual ROMs from a Mac Plus, so we'll try that first. Unless I'm supposed to do a solder thing on here, I don't know. Like I'm either putting things in the wrong place or something's wrong with this board. But we'll try it again here. All right, ROM low 342B. Okay, let's try this now. I'm just going to put the plus ROMs in here and see if it acts any better. I don't know, this is a little wacky. I'll be right with you, folks. I'm just doing some tinkering over here. I'm just taking the ROMs from my Mac Plus and putting them in here where I think they should go, and yeah, okay, well, we're going to try this, folks. I'm going to put this back in now. Let's just zoom out a bit again. So the pins are all good, nothing's bent, so we're just going to gently place this back where it's supposed to go. Make sure we're not missing. Let me get this brightness happening up here again. You can still hear me? Okay, good. Make sure the microphone doesn't die. Make sure that that's right. All right, we put actual Mac Plus ROMs in here. I know they're from a Mac Plus, and I know it was working because I booted the Mac Plus previously. So we're going to put this board back in. I'm going to put this ROM in here just to see if the Mac Plus is still happy. It might be an interesting experiment to just put this in and see if it wants to boot, because a Mac Plus... Actually, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Let's... We're going to hook, just for fun, we're going to throw this Mac Plus into this thing because it's the same architecture anyway. So before we test the RAM expansion in the SCSI on this guy, we're going to try the Mac Plus with the transplanted ROMs from the original board. I want to verify if these ROMs are happy. I'm sure they are, because this thing booted beforehand. So let's go back to, we'll zoom out, zoom back in a bit. We're going to put this in here, and we're going to test this Mac Plus just to see if we get the question mark, or we can also boot to the boot to that floppy that's in there. All right, testing the Plus. We could actually hook the SCSI up to this thing and see if it wants to boot. That might be a good idea, actually, so we can see what's on it. Let's go ahead and try that. We'll hook the SCSI drive back up, just for fun, and then we're going to go back to the WattsCam. All right, it's time to go back to the WattsCam, everybody. Da, 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 da. What's on the screen? I don't know. I can't see. I'm behind the computer. But we're going to plug in the keyboard again, and we're going to see if this thing wants to be happy, because it should be. All right, this has native SCSI support on this logic board. So let's go ahead and connect that like so. Got our power here. Do that. We're going to hook up the hard drive and power it up first, and then we're going to see if this thing wants to chime and be nice. Power, we got to hook up the mouse before I forget. For those of you joining us, we are in progress of testing a RAM expansion and SCSI expansion on a Macintosh 128K that was upgraded to a 512K that was also upgraded to 2 megabytes. Thanks to me and a bunch of chips, and yeah, so. All right, hard drive 3, 2, 1. It's always best to make sure the hard drive is fully spun up. Okay, computer in 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's interesting. Same type of behavior. Weird. Shutting down. Holy cow, we're not batting very well here. Well, now I'm not sure what's going on. So either the ROMs are not happy, or maybe. Okay, we're going to check the other board with the RAM expansion and see if it's happy now. I don't know what's going on here. I'm a little confused, to be honest with you folks. All right, pulling the Mac Plus logic board out. The weird stripey pattern means that it's not happy with the ROMs, so I've either plugged them in incorrectly. Oh, we gotta unplug the keyboard. I keep forgetting to do that. Sorry, I'll put this back. Oh, don't forget to do this. Oh, we're gonna wreck this keyboard cable. Don't do that. Okay, so, hi WattsCam. I'm thinking either these ROMs are in the wrong place or they're the wrong ROMs for this particular machine. So, let's put this away for a second. And we're gonna try our Monster Mammoth board again, because I know this has a working Mac Plus ROMs in it. So let's hope that this behaves itself this time. We're going to put this on its face again because putting this stuff in is just a little too crunchy. Do not like, yeah, I don't want to break anything when we install it, and it is fairly really need to clean up around here. All right, we're gonna put this on its face, and let's not worry about the SCSI drive until we know the machine actually boots. For a change, that would be wonderful. All right, we're gonna put this guy on its face again. We're gonna go back to the overhead camera. So let's do that right now. Thanks for your patience, folks. We are trying to get this logic board happy, and we've installed, we have this Maximilian RAM expansion, which was working beforehand, And then I tried to put this MacSnap SCSI board in here, and it did not like me and gave us weird things in the screen. And then we tried to take the ROMs that were out of here and put them in the Mac Plus logic board, and we got funky lines and no go as well. So we're going to try this again. All the pins are in, everything looks good. So let's gently, we're just going to wedge this in from the side again because I really don't want to bend any of the pins and stuff. So we're just going to gently do that. And then one more bit of a shift here just to get that all the way in. Ugh. Nasty, but it's in. Okay. So now we're going to plug in the main connector. Yep, and then we will plug in the floppy connector. And for now, let's just not worry about the SCSI because I just want to see a happy face here. Back to the WatsCam. Let's plug in the keyboard. Let's not mess up the keyboard cable anymore. This is getting really nasty. All right, when we turn this on, we want to hear a beep. We want to hear a nice bong, and that's the goal here. So let's not worry about the hard drive. Let's just not worry about the SCSI. Let's just see if this thing wants to power on and be nice. All right, WatsCam, 3, 2, 1. Haha, that's a good sound. We are booting. Hey everybody, WatsCam, it's working. You'll notice that the screen blacked out and I had to bump the analog board. So this analog board needs some work done to it. Okay, so let's take a look at About the Finder. And you can see there 2048K, so 2 megs of RAM. The good news here is that the MacSnap SCSI board seems to be happy with the Mac Plus ROMs. The ROM that was in maybe weren't full Mac Plus ROMs. And so now I'm curious to see if we can mount that hard drive. So we're going to shut this back down again. Yeah, see how the screen blanks if I bump the analog board. There's probably some solder joints that need some help in here. But nonetheless, we've got a functioning 128K Mac with 2 megs of RAM. We're going to test the SCSI expansion, but I'm going to turn the machine off first because it's not cool to plug in SCSI things when the machine is live. So we're going to shut this off. Let's go ahead and shut down properly. Feeling a little nervous about that. Shut down. Go away. You'll notice I said shut down and it restarted. That's kind of odd. You can hear some ticking noises. I don't know if that's indicative of a failing component on the analog board, but nonetheless, we got ourselves a bong. So I'm just going to shut this thing off. And now we're going to plug the SCSI cable back in. And we're going to try hooking up that SCSI hard drive this time. We'll see if we can mount the SCSI hard drive. I'll be very, very happy. That'd be cool. Which means our mission is accomplished. But then I'm also wondering if there's a way to incorporate the Rominator with the MacSnap. I don't know if that's going to be possible because there's just not enough clearance under this metal chassis to fit in there. So that's going to be the tricky bit. Let's plug the floppy back in. All right, this time we're going to, let's unplug the power for just a second. We're going to do a SCSI test this time. I think I'm feeling good about it. So I don't know, I think what might have happened with that 128 is the original ROM upgrade was just enough that it could recognize maybe the HD20, and maybe it needs a full set of Mac Plus ROMs to be actually happy. I'm not totally sure there. That's interesting, but we can always burn extra Mac Plus ROMs for later, or get some more from other machines, whatever. That was a good test though, because I thought, well, if I know I have a Mac Plus here and I know it works, so if I take the ROMs out of the Mac Plus, put them in here, should be happy. The bad news is now my Mac Plus logic board does not want to work, but it's okay. We're doing some troubleshooting. All right, here's our SCSI cable, and we got our power. We're going to hook this up again. This is fun. I'm having fun with this. Yeah, we can't plug that into there anyway because it won't fit. It's not the right size, just like the Rominator chips are a different size than the original ROMs there. So let's go ahead and plug this in to the hard drive on the back. I can't remember where I got this 20SC from, but it's Apple's first external hard drive, and I've got another experiment we're going to do with. This cable's very funk dubious here. Hang on a second. I've got I have a FireWire to SCSI adapter, so we're going to try and experiment if we can hook this hard drive up to one of my newest Macs. I've got a 2021 MacBook Pro with an M1 Pro. Apparently, you're supposed to be able to to mount an old hard drive from SCSI. So what I want to do is get one of the oldest hard drives, this 20SC, to mount on one of the newer Macs. Not brand new, but new, like an Apple Silicon. All right, hard drive on in 3, 2, 1. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just try booting it with the hard drive and see if the hard drive has an OS, it should boot the Mac, even if it's System 7. I think System 7 runs with 2 megs of RAM, not sure, but maybe System 6, we'll see. I also have, well, I've got some Norton Utilities disks, but I think they're for 800K drives only. I don't think this is an 800K drive in here. Maybe it is. All right, computer in 3, 2, 1. We got a bong. We got a beep. The hard drive is working. Look at that. That's super cool. So the only problem is if I let go of the analog board, the picture dies. So if I can both the Finder. 5.3. Let's see what's on this hard drive. The hard drive is thinking. Well, there we go. Oh, this is frustrating. This analog board doesn't want to cooperate. There's something is. If I just pull the top out of the notch, it puts enough pressure on it. There's definitely needs some resoldering there, folks. All right, let's zoom in a bit and see if we can Sorry, we'll go back to the Watts cam here. Oh. When in doubt, just bend things. That's my motto. Just going to zoom in a bit to the Watts cam. And we will just move this up just a bit. Sorry about the flickering there. I need to get a different shutter speed. I don't know if my software allows me to change it. So what do we got on here? We've got Mario's Game Gallery. Does this work? I wonder if these are color games or if they actually... SimCity Color. Okay, well definitely these games, some of these games are not going to work. This is dated 1997. Number Munchers Color. Number Maze Oregon Trail. Let's take a look at this. Oregon Trail. This hard drive is full. It's only got 177K available. It's interesting. Oh, those hard drive noises are super cool. So for those of you just tuning in, we have successfully... Oh yeah, I need System 6 to run. That's funny. So... I don't know if we could install System 6 on this drive. We might need to delete something to make some room for it. But let's take a look at, what is Shufflepuck on here? Something simple. Brickles, Tetris, 1,000 Miles. That's a card game. Ah, that's cool. All right, well, that is good news, everybody. We have successfully upgraded a 128K board. Let's go back to the main camera here. We've successfully upgraded a 128 with 2 megs of RAM from 512 down to 128. So this machine originally had 128K of RAM. Someone modified the board. They removed the chips and put 512 in it. And then somebody else put this monster Maximilian RAM expansion that only had the bottom row of chips populated. You remember that solder bridge I showed you? The solder bridge, you need to clean that off because I put a bunch of other chips in it and like it didn't recognize it. So when I desoldered that bridge, then it said 2, but it only said 1 without. So it was only counting the bottom row. So we've upgraded a Mac 128. We put some Mac Plus ROMs in the MacSnap SCSI daughter card. We hooked up a SCSI cable to the external SCSI. The one thing I haven't done yet, my battery's running low, so I'll probably shut this down soon. But this is really cool. Check this out. And I don't know if this will work, but we have a we have a 25 pin to 50 pin adapter. So we can actually put a blue SCSI inside of this crazy thing and it will boot with like all by itself. So I'm going to try that. Maybe not right now, but later. Because I have the gender changer here and I just plug this into this and then I can put an internal blue SCSI that will boot. So I'm going to sign off, but thanks everybody for hanging out with me. This is Computer Compulsive. My name is Craig and we successfully upgraded a 128K to basically a Mac Plus by adding extra RAM and extra SCSI interface. Later on, we're going to work on the analog board for this. We'll get Keith to take a look at it so it's not doing its funky blackout thing when you touch it. Probably some kind of solder joints that's just cold, I'm guessing. And we'll also do some other testing. We'll see if we can install System 7 on this. I don't know if System 7 will run with 2 megs of RAM. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe you won't want to do it anyhow. But thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I look forward to seeing you at the next broadcast of Computer Compulsive. Have yourself a great night, and we'll talk to you guys later.